This is KRP, Ken's Random Podcast.
Joining me today is Marie Ducote. Marie is a longtime friend, and what's really interesting is Marie started Cajun food tours ages ago. I was still on the radio, and I don't know if it was, the first year you were around, but I interviewed you on KPR, and it was like, what a novel idea, Marie. Tell me all about it. And you did, and you're doing great with it. And I like
I've actually forgotten about that, Ken.
Hey, listen, that was a long time ago. And you started the food tour, what, 14 years ago?
Yeah, 14 years.
So I'd be willing to bet 14 years ago I met you. You drove up in this bright orange truck. It's a bus. But beautiful little orange bus. And we talked about it. And you had gone to, if I remember correctly, somewhere up north and had seen a food tour. And you thought, why don't I do that? And it's worked out real well, right?
Exactly. I had discovered food tours in other places. The first time I ever discovered a food tour, I was like, what? It's a tour and you get to eat. I mean, that's the two things I like to do when I travel, Yeah. So at first I just thought it was a really great idea, not really thinking of me doing it myself, but I was in a place in education. I had been in education for 23 years. Loved teaching for the majority of that time. But then when I went into administration, that's when things started losing my passion a little bit, started having my eye out for other things to possibly do, So, yeah. And that's when the idea grabbed me.
Growing up in South Louisiana, it was easy to say, I'll have to find another passion. What could it be? Food. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'll do food.
When I was in education, what I taught junior high. I taught Louisiana history. I taught Louisiana and American history, And so I was always passionate about, not just from my own family's standpoint, but just from that too, I'm sure gave me some added passion for our history and our culture and our uniqueness, You
mentioned food tours when you'd go on vacation some years back. Kathy and I went to California, and what do you do when you go to Southern California, if you can, or Middle California? You go on a wine tour. We did a wine tour that was amazing. Our driver was also a chef, and when we went into a winery to get the tour, we came out and he'd been preparing a meal outside on a grill. It was like, whoa, this is great.
Oh, wow.
About that same time, I guess.
What year was that? Around when was that? Yeah.
When was that? I don't remember. I barely remember yesterday, Marie. So I just say some years back. Some years back.
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really great tour, great food and great wine, of course. So when you do the tour now, I know that, you were the driver and the speaker, and now you've got employees, right?
Yeah, I still like to. I mean, it's such a blast. I love doing it. And so I still try to do about half of all the tours myself, but I do have two other driver guides as well. Yeah. We're always just one person, it's always going to be a driver guide. Now we do have some walking tours as well. Downtown Breaux Bridge right now, kind of in the pipeline is to do downtown Lafayette as well.
Yes.
Downtown Lafayette's really begging for it. I mean, it needs it, it's definitely prime for it. It's just a matter of making it happen. But so it's just the three of us right now, so I run the business and I do about half the tours, and then I have two part-time tour guides. One of my tour guides has been with me. Jay has been with me for 9 years, and he's absolutely phenomenal. He's done hundreds of tours for me. Looking at his number, I think he's at about 750 tours that he's done so far for me. Wow. Out of the 2,200, we've done about 2,300 total, and Jay's done about 700 of those. And then Whitney, my other tour guide is Whitney. She's my daughter, and she's been working with me for years, off and on, doing things like social media, and she's just been always a supporter of my idea from the first time I had the idea. She was probably my biggest fan, my biggest supporter of the idea. She worked with me a little bit off and on when she was in college, I believe, when I started it, but she does the Walking Breaux Bridge tour.
Yes.
She's the guide for the Walking Breaux Bridge tour. And she started doing the the bus tours also recently. And so she just had her 100th tour with me. So she
Oh,
just has done 100 tours.
slacker,
Yeah.
slacker.
That was a big celebration. Yeah, but it was a big celebration. We had to, we did champagne and stuff. The Brobridge tours only offered once a week, so it took a while to get 100. And that's, she was just doing it very part time. So she was
Yeah.
just doing it max once a week, but not, not even every week does it make. So
Well, I haven't taken the Brobridge tour yet, but the tour I took with you on the bus was amazing. And I mean, I grew up here. I know probably even more than you know about the Lafayette area, but it's not focused. I can't just, drive by a place and give you facts and stuff. But going on your bus tour, we met at, I can't remember the name of the hotel where you had other guests staying. Great. So here comes Marie, the orange bus. We all get on the bus, and Marie just starts telling me everything about what's on the road. It's like some people have no idea what pinhook is. Some people have no idea why this, why that. And it's like
yeah.
you imparted so much information in a tour. And then when you throw in the food, when the first stop is New News, it's going to be good.
Yeah,
It
people
was,
are always surprised about that. And then, Ken, I don't know about you, but a lot of people just walking on the bus, they're surprised that the bus is like this little living room inside. It's
yeah.
cozy in there. It's like a little, perimeter seating. I always say it's kind of like a party bus, but no stripper pole and black leather. It's like a cozy party bus. People enjoy that because they get to meet the other people. Sometimes they're locals, sometimes they're people from anywhere in the world.
Sure.
Yes, tourists love to meet locals, and locals love to meet visitors. So
Aside from the tours itself, I have to commend you and a few other people that are doing tours and things to promote our area, to promote our culture. It's interesting to see so many young people getting involved with our culture more so than when I was growing up. Because I was growing up at the end of that, your parents didn't speak French on the school grounds because they get
right.
punished. And you and I both speak English reasonably well. I'm sure I could do better. But it's like, wow, to be able to speak two languages, that's always amazed me. And when you get people who come in here from France or Canada or anywhere, and they say, I understand your French. I'm like, well, duh, it's French. Just that simple.
People will say, "Oh, you're learning French because of your business." And I'm like, "No, it's actually because of my business gave me the desire to learn French, but
Hmm.
I'm not learning French for my business. It was how I always tell people I was always passionate about my culture. But there's nothing like seeing your home through the eyes of people from literally all over the world
Hmm.
to really deepen your appreciation for what you have. And it
Right.
was during that time, during that first 3 years of my business, that my appreciation for our culture became so much more profound that when I would tell the story of, well, yeah, my grandmother's first language was French. My mom grew up bilingual. I grew up without a single word of French, never heard any French at all. My whole, not in my house. I'm sorry. I heard my grandparents, of course, speaking it when we would go visit.
Sure.
But that was my story. My story ended there. And my story ended with, so when my mom's generation is gone, the language will be gone out of my family. That was always my story. That's the story I grew up with. That's the story I told for the first 3 years of doing these tours. But, the more I told that story, the more the less I was able to accept it, because I was
Right.
growing in my passion for our culture, because I was seeing how special we are through other people's eyes. And so it became more and more painful to tell that story. And it was that led me to the decision about 10 years ago now, to the decision that I could try to learn the language of my family and hopefully take it back for my family. And maybe if all things go well, I would be able to pass it down to my own grandchildren one day. So that's my hope. I've been practicing on my little dog while I'm waiting for grandchildren.
I applaud you on your decision to jump into relearning your language by going up to St. Anne in Canada And it's like,
Mhm, mhm.
how long did you stay up there? Was it 3 weeks or five?
It's a 5 week program, yeah, and that was just one. I didn't even know that that existed at first. When I made the decision, Ken, I didn't know anything existed. Like I made this decision it was a very personal for me, for my family. I'm gonna take blah blah blah, and then I was like. I was even to the point of, oh, I'm going to teach to my grandkids, but who will they talk to? Because I didn't know. It wasn't until I started telling people about this decision and this desire that I had that someone eventually said, because my ideas stopped at going to visit my grandmother who was 91 at the time in Ville Platte and recording her.
Hmm.
I was not getting anywhere fast like that. And eventually somebody told me, oh, there's a French table, some old men get together in New Iberia, at Victor's. And that was the first I'd heard of it. So I showed up at Victor's. It was, Rocher and them and me. It was all men and me. Older men and me. And
Yeah.
and it was and that too was not going anywhere fast. And it wasn't until Mr. Preston said, Marie, you need to put those apps on your phone. But Mr. Preston, I don't want standard French. I want our family's French. And he said, Marie, just like you said, Ken. He said, Marie, he's still speaking French, right? And he impressed on me. He said, when I go to Europe, he said, we don't have any problem talking to those people in France. He said,
Yep.
but oh man, when we go to England, I can't understand a word those people are saying. So he really made the great point to me, to learn the structure, to go ahead and learn the structure. Don't be afraid to use the apps and the programs and things like that for standard French. And then he said, and then keep coming over here and we'll fix you, and that's kind of the approach I've taken, to learning is like, go ahead and learn the structure and all that. So I was discovering more and more French tables, and I discovered interviews online on YouTube, like l'Académie Cadien with Robin Richard, and then somebody told me about St. Anne's,
Mm.
and
Yep.
that was probably a year or two into my, journey. And it was phenomenal. Yeah, it was 5 weeks of immersion
Wow.
up there in Acadie. And that was not my first time in that area. I had been to Acadie with my mom a couple of years earlier, but it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommend it to anyone who wants to be immersed.
Yeah.
I really was excited about the idea when they were talking about St. Luke, and I think it may still be around. Like the idea of having something like that around here, that would be so invaluable.
I'm so impressed with how far you have come since I first met you, and you're not as hesitant to speak French. And, I applaud you for all the effort you put into it. And, when I've been to just back up a little bit of talking about tours, when I've been to other cities, one of the things I found
Mhm.
is you can go and roam around and learn a few things, but I've taken some tours in places that just blew my mind. And I've been fortunate to
Mhm.
meet some incredible tour guides. And I'm happy to include you in that list because I learned
Oh,
stuff.
thanks.
I learned stuff on that tour with you years ago that I did not know. And it's like, wow, this is great. So I applaud you on the French language and I applaud you on the tours. And my guest today is Marie Ducote, in case you missed that at the beginning. She is the proprietress and the chauffeur of Cajun Food Tours. If you see this little orange bus going around with beautiful scenery painted on it, and when it stops and a lot of happy people get off, that is Marie's life. And I applaud you for that. I really do. If you've got guests coming to town who have never been to Louisiana or Acadiana, I urge you to call or book a tour with Marie because you will learn so much more about the area. So your friends are coming and you don't know what to do with them. Don't just plop them in front of a TV while you go to work. I
You're
mean,
your guest while you go to work.
yeah, it's really weird when you go vacation somewhere and you meet your friends and they're like, "Well, listen, I got to go to work and we have cable and stuff if you want to stay busy."
Right, right. Help
But
yourself to the snacks.
but the snacks on your tour are great.
Better snacks if you can get on my bus,
Yeah,
right?
so tell me about the tour. How do I book a tour for friends?
Yeah, most of that's done on our website, CajunFoodTours.com. You can see, you can pick it, you can, look by date, you can look by tour, you can look by date range, and then just see what we have available. By far the most popular one is the original Cajun Food Tour. And that's the one you'd want to send your guests on. Then they can just book it right there online. We offer the original Cajun Food Tour every day except Wednesdays and Sundays. And we offer it twice a day. We offer it at 10, it goes through the lunch hour from 10 to 1. And then we offer it again in the afternoon. It starts at 2:30 and goes till about 6. That tour visits 5 different places to eat in a 3-hour period. So it's a 3-hour tour, with pickup and drop off, maybe add a half an hour to that, but it's about a 3-hour tour, and we're going to eat at 5 places. So we always say, come hungry and we'll drop you off satisfied. That's the plan.
When I did the tour with you, we went to Nunu's, which, it's like a mile and a half from my house. So it was a whole home week. But when we went to Fizzo's, now I'm not that big an oyster guy. I like small fried oysters, but we went to Fizzo's and they had charbroiled oysters. Man, I thought I was going to die.
I don't know if you ever saw them making those, but they're smoky. Part of that flavor is from the smoke. They're smoking up. They're putting them on a grill, and they're keeping that fire real smoky. And that's part of that flavor in there. Not only the butter, Parmesan, garlic, that they're cooking it in, and the cheese and all that, but that smoky fire. Boy, that makes a big difference. That gives a lot of flavor to that oyster.
Yeah. So tell me more about the bus. You've got, how many people can fit on the bus? Is it 12 or 14?
14. 14's the max. Yeah. We need a minimum of 6 or, we say 8, but we'll typically go out with 6. We need a minimum number of people to take that bus out, and do this tour. That bus is no fun with 2 or 3 people on it, So we like to shoot for at least bare minimum 6 people before we take the bus out. That does not mean your group has to be 6 people. We get people on the tour all the time that come alone from all over the country, all over the world, come alone, because they're traveling alone. So you can come alone. It's just a matter of us, having other people. So that's why, and to me, that's the fun part too, is you're meeting other people from who knows where. So you'll be on the bus with other people, the friends you bring with you, and hopefully some other people that you don't know.
You never know, because you might meet people from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and later you may travel to that part of the world and say, "Oh, I've got a friend there," So
and you've already got a friend there. That's right. People are exchanging information on my tour all the time, just for that exact reason. Well, we're heading up that way, and switching off, and that's really fun for me to see too. How much the locals enjoy the tourists, and vice versa. And what people don't recognize, because I know a lot of locals will go, I know I'm coming. I'm a local. Been here my whole life. And it's like, yeah, join the club. Over 50% of my guests are local. Yeah. Over half of the people who get on my bus are local, and they come not just once, but they come over and over, and they bring other people. Sometimes they get together. It's all locals. Like, it's just grandma's birthday, and this is a fun thing to do with every age of the family. We all work in an office together, and we're having a little celebration, or it's somebody's 40th birthday, or whatever. And in those cases, a lot of times they'll book a private tour, to where they have the whole bus to themselves. Right. And so we can certainly do that kind of stuff too.
So you've got female sororities, you've got church groups, you've got Girl Scout troops or things, anything where you need to, let's say, entertain and maybe semi-educate some people. Bring them on the Cajun Food Tour. It's great because Marie or whoever's doing the tour that day, whether it's Jay or Whitney and Breaux Bridge, they will know more information than you know, even as a local. You bring them out there and everybody can have a good time. And I'm not advocating drinking, but I'm saying, so you can go to a restaurant with Marie and you won't have to worry about driving home under the influence, because she will take care of that for you.
To that end, people will buy adult beverages at the restaurants. You can get them in to-go cups, which are totally legal because we have the right licensing for that on the bus.
Summertime is here. I'll admit, I don't want to go walking out in the sunshine somewhere right now, but an air-conditioned bus, I'm all for that. And the Breaux Bridge tour is still going on during summer, but it's not that long a tour,
And
is it?
we actually do, right. It's not, and it's this, and she knows where all the shade is, and you're in and out of the places. You're not walking out in big, but we do close that Bro Bridge tour off in August and half of September, just because it's just getting not pleasant. But it's open pretty much everything except August and maybe into September, a couple of weeks. And we also do that around the world in Acadiana tour. You would probably like that, Kim. Jay always does that one. It's really one of his passions is world cultures and the food of world cultures. And we are so blessed here in Acadiana, not just with our, Cajun and Creole cuisine, but we have such authentic food here from,
Sure.
from many other parts of the world. People who, internet, different communities of people who've brought their foodways, their delicious stuff here, That around the world tour is offered in the evening on Thursdays. So it's a great, date night or girls' night out or something like that. And it's in the evening from like 6:30 to 9ish, and it visits just different types of cuisine, different types of international cuisine. So we created that tour to get our locals out of their culinary comfort zone, tourists who are having boudin for the first time, crawfish for the first time and stuff. And I'm like, and then I immediately had all these locals doing it. I'm like, you guys aren't even getting out of your. So we created this tour to try to broaden their culinary horizons as well. And that's been working out really great. It's a wonderful, wonderful tour,
My guest has been Marie Ducote, and she's got to run off to do a tour, something like that, I'm sure. But she gave me a time frame, so I'm getting out of here. Marie, thank you for the tour again. CajunFoodTours.com, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, good. I got that right. Whew. And the phone number's on there and all the information you need.
And we have Facebook and Instagram too, Ken. Facebook and Instagram. They can see pictures from all the tours and things like that.
I think I'm going to have to book another tour soon.
Yeah,
Marie,
you need to do the international tour. You would love that.
thank you very much for being here. And again, we want to remind you, book a tour with Cajun Food Tours. Marie and her staff will do an incredible job for you. And when your guests go back home, they'll say, man, we had a good time in Louisiana. And that's what we want.